Let's pray. Father, thank you for this day and all that lies ahead. We, Lord, invoke your presence this morning. Lord, we recognize you're already here, but God, we want to acknowledge that and welcome you. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, the Bible says there is freedom, there's liberty. But Lord, there's so much more. There's peace, there's unity, there's blessing. And that's my prayer this morning. God, that you would bless beyond what we can even imagine this meeting, all the decisions and directives that would be made today. I also pray for blessing upon these leaders that you've allowed to be here to lead and guide and direct this county, us residents of Martin County. Father, I ask your blessing upon them. I ask your protection upon them. I ask you, God, to guide and direct them. And, Lord, be with them and their families and all the circumstances and situations, Lord, that we all face in our families, the ups and downs and the ins and outs and times of trial and times of blessing. Lord, I just ask you to be with them. So thank you, God, for this day. And again, thank you for your blessings in our lives. In Jesus' name I pray.
Amen.
Amen.
Now please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Margie, would you like to do roll call for us, please?
Absolutely. Commissioner Eileen Vargas.
Present.
Commissioner Sarah Hurd.
Right here.
Commissioner Stacy Hetherington.
Here.
Commissioner Blake Capps.
Here.
Commissioner Ed Campy.
Here.
Commissioner Christopher Collins. Here. Commissioner Kaya Mayfield.
Here.
And Councilwoman Phyllis Waters Brown.
Here.
Commissioner Reed is coming.
We have a quorum. Yes.
Yes, and I just wanted to mention that Councilperson Phyllis Waters Brown is the new alternate for Indiantown to be represented on the MPO board. The mayor, Carmine, yes, he's the member, but he's unable to be here this morning.
We're happy to have you. New members, welcome.
And I just wanted to mention also that our election of officers is in February, according to our bylaws, and we don't have a chair or a vice chair. And so I had asked Commissioner Hurd if she could please chair this meeting, because our bylaws say that a chair of the meeting needs to be on the MPO at least 2 years or have been to the MPOAC training. And there's only 3 people actually that qualify on the board that could be chair. So if that's okay with the other board members, if Commissioner Hurd chairs this board meeting?
Yes.
So we only have one more meeting until we have our election,
Yes.
and somebody else can
Or you.
have the honor of this. So, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. I'm sorry to interrupt you. FDOT has contacted us and said, District 4 has contacted us and said that they would be late. Unfortunately, the district secretary is not going to be here today. His right-hand person, John Crane, will be presenting the item 8A. But if we could just please move 8A until the time that they come to the meeting.
That sounds good.
Okay.
Any other messages for us?
No, I'm certain, that's it.
Let the record reflect that Commissioner Reed is joining us. Welcome. So there's a motion to approve the agenda. So we're going to move the agenda items around a bit. Is there a motion to second the agenda?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes unanimously. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of October 21?
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes unanimously. Would anyone from the public like to address us? Seeing none, let's move on. We're going to move 8A down and 8C down also. So can we start with 8B, which is Florida Turnpike Enterprise FY 26 through 30, the draft tentative work program?
Good morning, everybody. I am James Brown. I'm the MPO liaison of Florida's Turnpike Enterprise. So I'll be going over our tentative work program for fiscal years 26 through fiscal year 30. and I thank you for having me this morning. How am I moving this forward?
Just do the middle of the.
Here we go. Just wanted to point out, Florida's Turnpike Enterprise, we are one with FDOT, so we do follow the compass. The part of the FDOT, we consider the 5 pillars, and everything revolves around communities. So we just wanted to point that out, that stakeholder engagement is of the most importance to us when we are considering projects and then going out and doing the engagement.
Would you move your mic up? So,
Is that better?
yes, it is.
Turnpike's prioritization process, we have various ways of determining how our projects get funded. Our projects have to demonstrate a true transportation need, and they're prioritized accordingly. Each year, we look up observed traffic data, all of our gantries, every time a car passes. We collect all of that data, and we determine future projections across the entire facility. We also take into account environmental and economic feasibility, but at the end of the day, it brings us back to stakeholder engagement. So that's of most importance. You may have traveled down the Turnpike Main Line and seen our advertisement of the Turnpike Widening Infrastructure Initiative. So we did want to point out that over the next 5 years, we're investing over $10 billion to widen the Turnpike to a minimum of 6 lanes. It's going to add capacity. It's going to improve the emergency response times. It's going to improve the connectivity with our local roadway networks at our interchanges. We're going to improve the lighting, the markings on the roads for autonomous vehicles. So just wanted to point that out. Here in Martin County, we have 20 miles of Turnpike facility, our Turnpike Main Line. And then with regard to this year's work program, we have 2 projects. One is the interchange improvements at Martin Highway, and we have some remaining expenditures that were not going to be spent in fiscal year 25. It's going to carry over into fiscal year 26 for design. And then similarly, the widening design from Martin Highway up to St. Lucie County line. That's going to be widened from 4 to 8 lanes. And that wraps up the presentation with regard to the Turnpike. I can speak to the PD&E study for our direct connection interchange. That PD&E study is going to be wrapping up second quarter. So we'll be advertising when our public hearing is going to be. But if there's any questions at all, I'll be more than happy to answer them.
Commissioner Campy.
Thank you. Thank you, sir, very much, Mr. Brown, for attending. I appreciate the information. Several years ago, there was some discussion from consultants with the Turnpike about changing the interchange at Martin Highway and Martin Downs Boulevard. A discussion was that they would make a on-ramp, off-ramp on High Meadows and an on-ramp, off-ramp on Layton Farms Road. Very surprising. I'm the Palm City Commissioner. Very surprising to those of us that live in that area. We all felt at the time unnecessary and completely out of character with the community. Layton Farms Road is literally like it sounds. It's a farm road. It's very residential and really like a low kind of capacity road to start with. I have watched in the recent years the improvements, great improvements at the interchange, removed, I'm sure where you're doing it everywhere, all of the toll booth lanes, repaved it. It's at a perfect junction of Martin Highway and Martin Downs, sort of ends right there. I'm sure you're familiar with it. And that's perfect. And what you've done in the recent years is perfect. So I understand that some of what is designed into this new plan starts to discuss that again. And I just want to reiterate that those of us in Palm City, I know that you said the pillars and the centerpiece of your mission and mindset is the community. Well, I'm speaking to you on behalf of the community. What is there now is perfect. It wouldn't cost you a penny to change it to these new things. And I need to have assurances. And even back then, they basically pulled the funding and said it wouldn't happen for decades. And everyone's like, okay. And now it seems like it's starting to show up again. And I just wanted to be cautious that if it is going to show up again, we need to have a specific item that discusses that, where we can announce it to the public, your public, and let them know that that's something that needs to be done. I know that you'd have to spend millions of dollars just to design and engineer it, never mind build it. So I'm telling you to spend multi-millions of dollars to do something that the public would absolutely not want, and in my civilian opinion, is not necessary, because what you have there is great, and no one's asking for anything more than that. So I would just hope that it doesn't turn into like, oh, well, it's been in the plan for years, and now we're doing it. So if you could bring that message back to your people.
Certainly will. I'll take that back to that project team. I know that we had spoke to the.
This is the friendly version.
Yeah,
They just ramp up from that.
Yeah. And I know that they were going to go and revisit that possibly.
You don't need any revisiting.
But I'll take that back to the team.
Thank you.
Appreciate the comment, yeah.
Yep. I mean, if perhaps, I know there may be some more discussion, but perhaps in the motion, there can be a request for the project manager of the widening project and the interchange project to come to give not only a presentation for each project, but how the two projects fit together. I think might be helpful.
I would make a motion that said just that.
Okay. Any other questions? There's a light on that's staff dais. Commissioner Mayfield.
This question might be a little bit more for Beth, but when we got here, we have the 5-year work program sitting, and then we also have one in the agenda, and it's only like a week apart. Is there some big difference or anything we need to note?
What you have in front of you is an updated work program for District 4. Broward County had some changes. There were 2 deferrals for 2 PD&E studies that we had taken out. So that's why you have an updated summary in front of you. For Martin County, there were 2 little minor decimal spaces for a milepost description that we updated, but that was the only thing specific to.
I noticed that.
Yeah.
I was reviewing it. I did notice
It was 2
that.
decimals. We went to 1 to be consistent.
Okay.
Thank you. Commissioner Capps.
Yes, my question has to do with turnpike widening. You mentioned 6 lanes. Is that for all of Martin County? All the,
We're looking right now from Indiantown Road up to Martin Highway to widen to 6 lanes, and from Martin Highway up to St. Lucie County line to widen to 8 lanes. It's going
okay,
to be a minimum of 6 lanes for the entire facility.
That brought the-
okay.
That's the plan right now, yeah.
What would timing look like for something like that?
We've just completed design phases throughout Martin, so we have the one last section that's a residual, but they're going to be finishing that phase. There is no construction funding at this time, so I wouldn't have an estimate as to when it could be put into next year's work program. But it's right now, if you look at that entire work program, we're really heavy in Palm Beach. All that construction funding is in place. You're going to see Palm Beach starting to be widened. St. Lucie, Martin, it's all going to kind of be pieced together. But
Thank you.
Commissioner Campy.
Sorry, just one more point about the widening. There was a lot of talk about sound walls, and I know that the residents were thinking having them done before the construction so that the wall would get to do its job right off the bat, and I think it's designed to come in at the end of the construction. I just want to make sure that there was a lot of residents reaching out to the Turnpike about the length, where it would start, where it would end. I get the timing we don't have control over, but where it would start and where it would end. I know the residents are interested in making sure that the sound walls stayed in place as part of the project.
yeah, and if it's deemed to be part of that segment, most certainly it's going to be within the construction of that widening part. I'll take that back to the project team as well. If it's at all possible, then we'll try to to accommodate that.
Yeah, I know
prior
you guys
to,
had said
yeah.
you would, so I
know some
appreciate it.
interchanges, we've been able to do that prior. It's just because of the,
Right.
yeah, so.
Is that part of your motion?
Yes, it is.
Commissioner Heatherington.
That was exactly my question on the sound walls. There's been residents for years asking for those sound walls on the Turnpike, Copperleaf, and some of those neighborhoods, so
The neighborhood's abut right onto the Turnpike.
that's it. I'll second the very long motion.
Okay, there's a motion to approve the Florida Turnpike Enterprise Tentative 5-Year Work Program with the suggestions regarding the sound walls and also the entrance at Palm City. There, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
We do have the consultant for the 2050 Long-Range Transportation Plan that just came in.
You should see who's here now. Your people.
So we can take up 8A?
8C.
8C, all right. That's the 2050 Long-Range Transportation Plan Goals, Objectives, and Performance Measures. Good
Good morning,
morning.
everyone. Good morning. All right. I'm Vikas Jain with TYLN, project manager for the LRTP. Our agenda here this morning, I'll give a quick project status update to you. I'll touch on vision statement, discuss goals and objectives, evaluation criteria and performance measures, and then briefly talk about the first visioning session, open house we conducted last month, and then wrap up with next steps. So quick update, I was here in front of the board back in October. This board approved the PIP, Public Involvement Plan. We operationalized that plan, and one of the first things we did was launch the project video. Hopefully some of you have seen the project video. We also conducted the first open house. Again, I'll touch on that. We have prepared goals, objectives, evaluation criteria, technical memorandum 3. That technical memorandum is included in your agenda packet, and I'll touch on some of those items in a little bit. So before I get into goals and objectives, this is the vision statement that we shared with this board back in October, as well as with the public during our open house. Simply put, it's a broad vision statement, touches on national goals, state goals, as well as state some local preferences, touches on health, sustainability, equity, and the goals and objectives that I'm going to talk about. This provides context and perspective of how these goals and objectives were established. So real quick here, there's a lot of information. I won't go through all of this, but the 6 goals that we put together for Martin Moves 2050. The first one is on maintenance, congestion management. Second one touches on safety. Third one, environmental sustainability. We added an equity goal. This is really important, both at state and federal level, as well as local, but special emphasis with environmental justice 40, as well as EJ issues. There's an innovation goal and a project delivery goal as well. Again, these goals are consistent with the Florida Transportation Plan, which is the state plan, as well as IIJA, Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, that has the national goals, which were continued from MAP 21 and so on. It also is consistent with the local plans here. There are 31 objectives in different categories. Again, you can see those categories on the far right on this slide, and they correspond to the 6 goals. Again, the technical memorandum that's in your packet has a lot more detailed discussion about these goals and objectives. These goals and objectives provide us a comprehensive, transparent framework to identify improvements that eventually will be included in the 2050 Long-Range Transportation Plan. The goals and objectives tend to be broad, so to sort of bring them down and make it more applicable on projects and the other technical analysis we'll be doing through this plan. We have developed several evaluation criteria and performance measures. These performance measures, evaluation criteria, they tie back to the goals and objectives and eventually the vision statement. So we have about 57 performance measures, 31 evaluation criteria relative to the 31 objectives and 6 goals. There are certain performance measures that are required by law. So we'll be using this performance measures for three key items. The first one will be to evaluate and compare several projects that will be identified through this process. Second is to put together a system performance report. So 17 of the 57 performance measures are for that system performance report. It is something that's required by law, by IIJA. And thirdly, we'll be using it for comparing different scenarios that we'll be evaluating down the road through the LRTP. And about 40 of these criteria outside of 40 of these performance measures outside of the 57 are consistent with, again, things that are important here locally to the community. If there's any questions on evaluation criteria, performance measures, we can talk, after my presentation. But I'll switch gears and touch on the visioning session that we did in City of Stewart at City Hall back on November 19th. So this just shows you a variety of tools and techniques that we use to get the word out for the open house. Again, we used traditional methods. Some of them are listed here, like flyers, and social media, press release, as well as we did a lot of non-traditional outreach. Again, the idea was to get the word out to, as many people as we could. Some of the things we did was yard signs. We also had electronic billboards, so we had digital display along US 1 to get the word out as well. We also had a project web page, and we had done email blasts to a variety of organizations that are shown on here. Again, we'll continue to do this for the next visioning session, which is on January 16th of, that would be next month. Couple of quick photos from that visioning session. It just shows the interactive exercises that we had, people participating in those exercises. And we'll be compiling all the input that we got, and I'll share that with you during our next meeting. I should also mention that we had a couple of folks from FHWA, Federal Highway Administration, attend our workshop, so we were really happy about that. Our web page went live middle of October, and this just shows a few key performance measures, indicators from that. We are going to use this to monitor the web page, how folks are using it, and the intent would be to look at these metrics and try to improve the web page so that we can improve the user experience and have more and more folks visit the web page, take surveys, and provide input. From next steps standpoint, we'll get into technical analysis, congestion, partly the reason why I was a little bit late for the meeting. There's a lot of congestion, as we know. We'll be looking at that. We'll be doing travel demand modeling, traffic forecasting, as well as continue with our public involvement efforts. I mentioned we'll have our second open house. This is in Palm City, middle of next month. Our survey is up and running. We also have business cards. The business cards have a QR code, and that will take folks to the survey as well. We'll be doing key stakeholder interviews. We'll be talking to each one of you, as well as we have a couple of meetings that'll be coming up once we are done with this technical analysis. I'll come back in April to share the needs assessment and the needs plan with you all. With that, thank you, and I'll take any questions, comments.
Thank you, Mr. Jain. Questions? Commissioner Capps?
Yes, my question has to do with the policy board meeting agenda item summary and the term performance-based planning effort. It seems like a sort of a loaded phrase, and I'd like to know just the philosophy behind that and what that means to you all as transportation planners. What does it mean to be performance-based?
That's a great question. So if you look at the narrative in the technical memorandum, it ties back, there were a couple of, not only through IIJA, which is the latest surface transportation law, but before that, MAP 21, there was an emphasis to identify performance measures, and those performance measures are under 7 national goals. They relate to infrastructure maintenance, project delivery, environmental sustainability, and those are very specific quantitative measures that you have to evaluate, monitor, quantify to make sure that the investments that are being made, and there are targets that are set for those performance measures and national goals. Those performance measures help you to monitor and see how your investments are performing relative to that national goal. So that's what they are. If you look at the other performance measures, there's a number of them. Again, you'll see them relative to the goals and objectives, and they are all, most of them are quantitative. Some of them will be qualitative, depending on where we are using them. So I was just giving you an example about the 17 performance measures that are part of the system performance report. The ones that are for scenario planning, some of them might be qualitative, quantitative. So I'll give you an example. Last time around, when we did the LRTP, we put together transit emphasis scenario, and the other one was ACES, which is automated electric shared use vehicles. And we had performance measures like VMT, vehicle miles traveled. So we would calculate vehicle miles traveled from the model and figure out if, how many vehicle miles travel is in one scenario versus the other scenario. So those are some other performance measures that there are some that are environmental. Again, it'll measure emissions and other things and help compare one scenario versus the other scenario. And then there are a few others which are very specific, and they help us evaluate and rank projects that we are programming through this process. So that's just to give you an idea on the variety of performance measures and what that means in different cases. Anything else, Beth, you want to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, like, maybe probably about like a year and a half, 2 years before COVID, US DOT did this with all of their departments, Federal Highway, Federal Transit, Federal Railroad, Federal Airport Administration, where they said, we're giving federal money to a lot of local areas. We want to make sure that federal money is being spent wisely. And so we want some data to show that the money is being spent on a project that is doing what it's supposed to be doing. So kind of in a nutshell, I mean, I'm saying just what he said, but kind of in a nutshell, it was US DOT's way to make sure the money is being spent wisely, and that that federal projects, that they have the data to show that it's doing what if the project was put in place due to safety, mobility, that there's data, once the project is constructed, that reflects that.
Good. Thank you.
Is that okay?
Any further questions? Is there a motion to approve the 2050 long-range transportation draft goals, objectives, and performance measures?
Yes.
There's a motion
I'll second.
and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Jane.
Fortunately, the FDOT folks are here from District 4. Unfortunately, the District Secretary, Steve Braun, is not able to be here, but we have the opportunity to hear from John Crane and also the head of the work program, Jessica Rubio, about the draft tentative work program. And just to kind of, because we do have some new members, tell you all that, I'll remind the people that were here that back in June, you all approved a list of project priorities. And that list of project priorities for the next work program was submitted to the FDOT district office, where they took that and came up with the 5th year of their new work program. And I want to say, and I don't want to take any, I know you have a lot to talk about, but there's a lot of good news here, and I really want to thank you, John, and the district secretary, Jessica, the head of the work program. Ron Kariva is here, who is the SIS coordinator for the district. State Road 710, the Martin County got a lot of funding, and State Road 710 got a lot of funding. And we're a very small county, and to have gotten this kind of support from the state, I just, is very much appreciated. So, Ron was the one the SIS coordinator that went to central office and talked about our story, Martin County's story, and the unsafe conditions on 710. And I just, before you even start, I wanted to give you a shout out for what you're going to say.
That's great. I'll ride that wave a little bit.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. So Steve does send his regards late Friday. He kind of got called away to cover another meeting. So my name is John Crane. I'm the Director of Transportation Development at Florida DOT District 4. I oversee everything from planning, modal development, right-of-way acquisition, work program, which is the money, and design. And then construction and maintenance are handled by Paul Lampley, my counterpart. I've got about 30 years in the industry, 30-plus years, 20 of those with FDOT, 10-plus with consultant firms. I just wanted to take a moment, Beth thanked us, but I do want you to see the contingency of DOT folks that we brought with us here today. If you'd all stand.
Nice, thank you.
So these are the people that work behind the scenes to really make sure that the work program is balanced, make sure the roads are running. You see Chris Karras in the back. Chris, he's your man on the ground. If something's going wrong up here, he runs the Treasure Coast Operations Center, so he's, make sure you get his number if you don't have it, right? But I wanted to thank all the folks that are with me here today, some from work program, some from design. Everybody kind of spends a lot of hours when the work program cycle begins to try and get everything balanced and to go ahead and fund your priorities. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So this is the DOT mission. I do want to take time to read it. It's codified in statute. The Florida Department of Transportation's mission is to provide a safe, statewide transportation system that promotes the efficient movement of people and goods, supports the state's economic competitiveness, prioritizes Florida's environment and natural resources, and preserves the quality of life and connectedness of the state's communities. And you'll see there several words that are highlighted: safe, movement of people and goods, quality of life, and communities. We've, in the last couple of years, come up with this image, which we call the FDOT compass. You might see it pop up in presentations that come before you, but this is how we basically take the mission statement and make it part of our everyday work. In the center of that compass, you'll see communities, because all of us live in communities. You all live in communities. Every highway transportation project goes through a community, and we're not going to be able to get it done successfully without y'all's input and teaming with our communities. And then our true north is safety. So I just point that out. I'll go through briefly, what that means to us. But in terms of safety, you see there, it's not just target zero and designing roads for safety. It's also the engineering, education, and enforcement. So we adopted target zero just like you all did. We understand that there are no, having zero fatalities and severe injuries is a goal for all of us. And when we are designing our projects, we empower our project managers to kind of try and make those decisions. If something comes up, somebody asks us to add something, look at something, when they're out there walking the projects, they look for that and try and incorporate ways to improve that. Resiliency is part of our compass, and but some of the things DOT does to enact resiliency, we have a statewide resilience action plan. We try to enhance our bridge and drainage designs. We have partnerships and collaboration with our local communities to try and build projects that will help mitigate resiliency on the local roadway network, and hurricane response efforts. We had, obviously some damage up here and the rest of the Treasure Coast, Milton. We had all of our operation centers, Broward, Palm Beach, and our Treasure Coast ops folks were on the ground trying to help the community get back to normal. Economic prosperity in the supply chain, we've all lived through COVID. We understand the importance of deliveries, trucks. It's not just the trucks though, right? It's rails, it's airports, it's seaports. So we have a lot of our funding goes to those elements of the transportation network. Technology, we can't just build our way out of capacity problems and congestion. We need transportation systems management and operations. That's the signals, that's the ITS hardware. We have things like adaptive traffic control. Smart work zones is something we've enacted where they speak with our 511 system. And so hopefully if you're using one of the GPS alerts on your phone, it will actually speak to you and tell you that there's construction ahead. Wrong-way vehicle driving detection systems was a statewide initiative where we implemented technology on certain ramp locations to try and identify if a driver enters the interstate going the wrong way. And then for emergency response, we created dashboards this year that allowed us to help monitor all our equipment statewide. Workforce development, that's important to us all, but we've got a very large work program, and it's critical, as we see kind of a shrinking workforce overall, to get students interested and engaged in not just engineering, but we have, finance folks, we have contract managers. So we work very hard to try and reach out to the students. We participate in STEM programs. And then these are listed on the slide, some of the things we do actually in the district to help keep our staff engaged and interested in working for DOT. We have formal training programs, mentoring, a rotation program where staff get to go around in each of the departments and understand what everybody else does. Maybe there's a job that better suits them, that gives them a career path within DOT. Number of other items listed there. I'm not going to go through them all. So y'all just approved, right, your goals and for your long-range plan. The draft tentative work program stems from the long-range plan that was adopted, prior. Your list of priority projects comes out of that plan, feeds the work program. So we like to at least start this presentation off with some project highlights and kind of celebrate some of the successes that we've had from the previous efforts. So recently completed, September 23 was, or this cycle, Canner Highway resurfacing project north of 710. This had some, it updated the pavement markings, replaced deficient signing, widened the shoulders for safety, extended guardrail in the vicinity of canal hazards, and replaced some, traffic count sites. US 1 resurfacing from north of Jensen Beach Boulevard there. Started in June, completed in the fall, $12 million project. We did some drainage upgrades, PED push buttons, markings, lighting. You see the little buttons at the top. That's how we kind of tie it back into our compass, some safety and communities. State Road 714, still under construction, but wrapping up. I was actually the engineer for the State Environmental Impact Report that was done for this, so some of you may remember me from back in those days doing presentations. It is coming to a close. We're very happy that we're finally getting there, but I think it is a much improved corridor project. So thank you for your patience while we were getting it done. I think it will make a large difference for the folks traveling along the corridor. 710 at Tommy Clements. We heard you. We were able to get this programmed. It's under construction. That too is nearing completion. We're very happy to say we were able to accommodate, I believe, the southbound right turn lane also that kind of came up during the process. It was originally just a northbound left turn lane. Hopefully do a world of good in that spot location. Jensen Beach Causeway at Indian River Drive, currently under construction, resurfacing the roadway, replacing damaged sidewalk, upgrading the pedestrian curbs, the pavement markings, providing buffered bicycle lanes. So again, responding to the needs of the corridor, not just vehicles, but pedestrians and bicycles. State Road 15 resurfacing, that's also almost done, I believe. It went from county line to county line up along the lake, taking care of that roadway. Rumble strips, so this was a pretty much another statewide initiative for us. We were looking at all the high-speed rural roadways, trying to find ways to improve safety. Run-off-the-road crashes we had identified as being a problem statewide. So we identified funding statewide and allocated it across all our districts to try and fix some of those. You see the 4 locations we are addressing in Martin County. And then emergency response, I mentioned earlier, right? This was a tough year for us, but we actually don't just help this area. We sent staff up to North Carolina and Tennessee as well. We sent staff over to the west coast of Florida. So we have mobilized as an agency, one FDOT. So if we're ever needed, we expect that it won't be just us on the ground. We'll have our sister districts being able to help us out as well. We understand the importance of it. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Jessica, and she's going to walk you through some of the current funding for the draft tentative work program.
Good morning, board members. Jessica Rubio. I am the Program Management Administrator for District 4. So this is a quick overview of the general work program cycle. It pretty much starts in July, where we start preparing the draft tentative work program in coordination with the MPO, and we balance the draft tentative work program to the allocations we receive. From November through December, we take a road trip and we present to the various committees, the technical advisory committees and the Metropolitan Planning Organization boards. In December, we already conducted our public hearing of the work program. It was on December 10th. From January through February, FDOT in central office compiles the district's work program information, and they create the statewide tentative work program. It is submitted to the governor, the legislature, the Florida Transportation Commission, and the Department of Economic Opportunity. In March, the Florida Transportation Commission statewide conduct a statewide public hearing of the tentative work program. This year, the legislature convened on March 4th. July 1st, after the appropriations are approved by the state legislature and the governor, the 5-year work program is adopted by the FDOT secretary. So here is some information regarding the work program. Basically, every year, the DOT maintains the costs for construction and right-of-way. This is done every year just to make sure that we maintain a stable work program. Overall, we can report that the project's costs increased with respect to the prior year. Some funding allocations were lower than prior cycle, and the estimated revenue distribution is based on percent population of the state. Our goal is to maintain projects that were committed in the common 4 years related to safety, preservation, and maintenance. And new phases or new projects are generally added in the new 5th year. In this case, the new 5th year is fiscal year 2030. I am very happy to report that the District 4 work program is balanced to the allocations we received. So let's go through your priority projects. And we thought it was more illustrative if we put a map of your priority number 1 and number 3. So your priority number 1 is State Road 710, and it's from Southwest Van Buren Avenue to Southeast 126 Boulevard in Okeechobee County. So we segmented this project, if you see in your map, in segments A, B, C, and D. For all these segments, we have design ongoing. We allocated about $10.7 million for design, and we allocated about $33 million for right-of-way, which is starting fiscal year 27. Besides that, on segment A, which is Martin Okeechobee County line to Southeast 126 Boulevard, we allocated $2.6 million for construction in 2030. For your segment B, we have allocated $20 million for utilities in fiscal year 29, and construction remains unfunded $106 million. If we move forward to segment C, construction is unfunded, is about $63 million. Segment D, we have fully funded for construction $13.9 million in fiscal year 2030. If you look at the top section of the map, we have zoom out the 714 realignment project. We're very happy to report that we have fully funded right of way, which starts in 26, 800,000. Construction starts in fiscal year 2030, and it's about $17.8 million. So let's go back now to your priority number 2. This is Cove Road from Canner Highway to US 1. We have allocated right-of-way funds, $6.8 million in fiscal year 27. Construction is unfunded, and it is about $63.8 million for construction. Your priority project number 4, this is Monterey Road at FEC Railroad Crossing. We have allocated about $73.8 million for design, which starts next fiscal year in 26, right-of-way, construction, and CEI, with construction starting fiscal year 2030. So this is about $73.8 million total for this project. We have also funded Northwest Alice Street at FEC Railroad Crossing. This is a sidewalk project. It will be a lap with the city of Stuart. Construction about $1 million starting in fiscal year 27. For your priority number 6, this is Southeast Bridge Road. This is a bridge replacement. Feasibility study is being finalized on this project. Your priority number 7, Esther Road 710 at Southwest Alapata Road. Intersection improvements, construction is unfunded. It's about $10.3 million estimated. Your priority 8, Southeast Commerce Avenue.
Excuse me, Ms. Rubio.
Yes.
We have a question. Commissioner Heatherington.
Number 7, the intersection of Alapata and 609, say 710. So that is a signalization of that intersection and turn lanes. Why would that not be up in the priorities? Did we separate that out?
We did that, make that a separate, or I shouldn't say we, you all made that a separate priority with the idea that whatever happened first, I mean, the signalization of the, of that intersection is actually included in the widening as well. But in case the widening was not funded, you all had wanted to have a separate priority in case that would had the opportunity to be funded.
So it is included with the previous one of the widening of the road.
Is it included?
Signal?
I don't believe it is included. However, FDOT project manager is requesting information. He will be coordinating this intersection.
I thought it was up in the priority 3 or 4 with the 710 widening. To me, that's probably one of the most crucial projects that we have as far as safety and Target Zero, because that intersection can't maintain the traffic that it has right now. So I'm glad we separated it out but the purpose of separating that out was to move that forward when we knew that the widening was going to take a longer term project. I feel like this board separated that out to move that along more expeditiously, and it looks like it's falling in the priorities here.
So this is also an off-system road. Probably that's why another reason you separated it. However, again, I will communicate with the project manager. I'm sure, he already requested me information on this project because he needs to look into that to make sure he does need or doesn't need to incorporate it into his project. So there is consideration to that for sure.
And maybe he can, because we have a item on the agenda at every meeting, the State Road 710 item update, maybe he can, part of that update can be, after some analysis, what, he can help with that situation.
I just wanted to interject because I believe the piece of 710 that you would want it incorporated in is still unfunded. So, I think it would be up to the board, right, if y'all want to shuffle this cycle where this shows up in your priorities. But we're trying, we funded the right-of-way along that piece, but the construction has a pretty hefty price tag. So if you put this back into that one and kind of wait, it may not happen. I would just caution you to make sure.
I think we wanted to separate it so that we could move the signalization and the turning lanes. That, to me, should be a separate project and be done as soon as possible, and not waiting for the widening of 710.
I mean, we're certainly can, take that direction moving forward, but I just wanted you to understand the relationship between the project, and I wouldn't personally marry it with the other projects. I think the way y'all have it is good.
We don't want it
Yeah.
married, but we want it expedited.
But right now, your number one priority is 710 widening, right? So we're allocating money towards that as we can, and then we'll try to fund this as well.
Yeah, at the next meeting in February, you all will be talking about the draft, a list of project priorities. So maybe at that time, and if we have the project manager here, there can be a discussion about that.
There will definitely be an opportunity to look it up again.
I would like to ask, if we widen the 710, as of now, coming out of Allapattah or turning onto Allapattah 609, it's difficult. So if we're widening 710, how do people on 609 or Allapattah, how are they able to get out or get onto 609? I'm just asking. I don't
think we're there yet.
Okay.
All that's going to be studied in terms of the widening. Right now, we're just starting the design of that widening, but
Okay.
I'm sure we'll make sure that there's access, whether it be a median opening or a signal. We're not sure, right? I don't even know if a signal warrant's been done for that location at this time, but that would certainly be part of the design prior to construction, and we'll be reporting back, obviously, progress on that.
Thank you.
And before you proceed, back to number 6, which is the Bridge Road Bridge. My understanding is that project is not going to happen for another 20 years. We just did maintenance on the mechanics of it, and the technology of it, so I don't know why this is prioritized as high, why it's,
Well-
obviously, we are prioritizing. I just don't remember why why this board prioritized that bridge at number 6, because I don't think that it's a critical project.
Originally, I think this was, it wasn't a replacement, it was a renovation, and FDOT did a feasibility study as a result of that. You all did have it, I know the projects got shuffled around a bit last year when you all discussed the list of project priorities, but at the next meeting in February, that'll be your opportunity to kind of change it a bit.
Okay, good, thank you.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, I think I was going to go through number 9. This is US 1 at Palm City Road. It's an intersection reconstruction. Project is unfunded. Number 10, Southwest Palm City Road from Monterey Road to US 1. Project is unfunded. Number 11, Monterey Road at an East Ocean Boulevard from Kingswood Terrace to San Lucie Boulevard. Project is unfunded. Project number 12, Willoughby Boulevard Extension from Monterey Road to US 1. PD&E is ongoing on this project. We allocated $2 million to start up design in fiscal year 2030, with the understanding that additional funding will be needed in fiscal year 2031. Priority number 13, this is High Meadow Avenue from I-95 to Martin Highway. PD&E is also ongoing on this project. This is a widening from 2 to 4 lanes. Right of way was funded $1.5 million. This is additional fund we added to this project. Project number 14, Dixie Highway from Cove Road to Jefferson Street. This is a resurfacing project, complete street improvements, and includes CEI also. Under scope program, we funded construction, $2.3 million in fiscal year 27. Project number 15, Southwest Citrus Boulevard from Southwest Hemingway Terrace to State Road 710. Project cost is about $5.1 million. It's unfunded. Number 16, Southwest Allapattah Road from 710 to north of Minute Maid Road. Project costs about $6.6 million. Project is unfunded. Number 17, Southwest Alapata Road, from north of Minute Maid Road to San Lucie County line. Project cost $6.2 million, unfunded. Number 18, North Soul Point Road from East Ocean Boulevard to Palmer Street. Project unfunded. Number 19, this is Canner Highway outside West South River Drive. Project deferred outside the 5-year work program. Under priority projects, you have another projects. This is a scope project again, Green River Parkway from Northeast Jensen Boulevard to Martin County line. We funded construction, $1.1 million in fiscal year 30. Under the Transportation Alternatives Program, we have Southwest Bulldog Way sidewalks. We funded construction, $1.7 million in fiscal year 28. This will be a lab project with Martin County. We have included a map of all projects funded in the 5-year work program. Give you a minute to review.
Commissioner Collins.
Yes, I just wanted to wait till you got through all those before I asked my question. If you would toggle back to item number 4. So this would be the separation of the grade at Monterey there. This would be effectively the tunnel that we were discussing and/or bridge, correct? Yes. Okay,
Yes.
so I had raised some concerns when we were going through this prioritization, and there was at least another commissioner that had voiced some similar concerns. I know the nature of this presentation is sort of codifying what we've recommended to you, but I wanted to bring this up because I still have serious concerns about this particular project. And now that the design and construction is funded, I wanted to ask if there is a mechanism when we are in February, or if this needs to be a separate item potentially to discuss, if we have a mechanism to either reprioritize or potentially even remove this kind of a project. I wanted to bring this up with a new composition of this board in the future. Maybe a question for Beth.
Yeah, we can certainly make this an item at the February meeting and request the project manager to make a presentation on the status of this project and how, updates can come to this board about this project. Yeah, like you mentioned and like I stated, the FDOT took the direction of the board of, what the board's priorities are, and then they used that to develop this draft tentative work program that they're presenting to you right now.
And again, in simple terms, I believe that if the average resident understood that we were contemplating putting a tunnel at Monterey there with the tracks, that they would feel like this might undermine the character of this area, and that this is something that might belong in a more urban, maybe down south or somewhere else.
I know, just to give you a little history, because this project does have a long history. The primary concern was the additional trains on the railroad. Not only were there going to be passenger trains that didn't exist before, but also the freight trains are getting longer, and there's no grade separation in Martin County at the FEC tracks. So the MPO board directed staff to actually do a feasibility study a few years ago. And back in 2017, this is the project manager, Robert Lopez, right here, that in the feasibility study, the MPO studied all the grade crossings in the county to see which one was the most feasible to have a grade separation, and Monterey Road was the one that was recommended, and a big concern was fire rescue getting to the hospital. If there's additional trains on the tracks, or if there's an accident and trains are having to stop on the tracks and people are not able to cross the railroad, how are the ambulances going to get to the hospital. That was a very big concern because there was no way to get around. When a train wrecks, it's not just the train, it's the train, railroad blue flags, the rail, so there's a certain distance on either side of the wreck. So that was the big priority. Another concern was evacuation. There's only one interchange with the turnpike in Martin County that's at Monterey Road. So during an evacuation, Hutchinson Island, Sewell's Point, part of Stewart are going to be using Monterey. More trains are going to be on the tracks at that time because train companies usually like to save their equipment. So they're moving the trains even more during an evacuation process. And so that was a concern too. So it was accessing the hospital as well as evacuation to make sure the area has safe infrastructure to accommodate that. So I don't know if the project manager wanted to. This is Robert Lopez from District 4. That's the project manager of this project.
Thank you,
Excuse me,
Beth.
Chair.
Yes.
Is it okay if I ask a question first, and then maybe he can?
Sure.
'Cause I'm going to, thank you. I share that same concern about over the tunnel or the bridge at that particular intersection. And I don't, again, one of my challenges with MPO is when I'm supposed to say what, or what, when exactly the information you want from me when you need it. Again, I'm not sure about reprioritizing. I think it's a very important intersection that needs look. I think there are a lot of ways, and I wanted to let you guys know as you look into this, there are ways to improve that flow of traffic that don't involve, in my opinion, I'm not an engineer, a tunnel or a bridge. The plazas next to it, getting a right turn lane and the traffic going west on Monterey. So I think it's important to look at it holistically as opposed to just fixing that traffic. And I think at another meeting, we talked about another intersection potentially at the Monterey Cutoff Road. That was brought up if you went to Dixie Highway, I think that's 60 Highway from that Monterey Cutoff Road. So I wanted to make sure I asked to look at it holistically as opposed to just doing the tunnel or the bridge, because I do believe that Beth raises some good points. I do believe it's a priority. I'm just not necessarily, to Commissioner Collins' point, the tunnel and the bridge I don't think would go over well, and I don't think it fits the character of that area. So thank you.
Commissioner Vargas?
Yes, I have to agree with both of these commissioners. I have driven tunnels right off Las Olas Boulevard, Broward County, which desperately needed it. But this is not in keeping with Martin County, the culture. And I think we really need to revisit this, and I understand the concerns. I have them all written down. But I think there is possibly another more favorable alternative, and I would urge you to really think about this clearly. Can we discuss this in another meeting in the future and see if there's another way to alleviate the concerns? Maybe not at this intersection, per se. People coming from Hutchinson Island are going to use Jensen Beach Boulevard Causeway also to evacuate. See what I'm saying? So I want to make that point. I think their points are very valid and very reasonable also.
Yeah, the similar comments have been coming up, so we're taking that into account.
So just one more thing, if you can bring up, just during our feasibility study, when we were looking at different, and this is obviously, we can ask Mr. Lopez to come back at February, so you can kind of give us a presentation at that time. But during the feasibility study, yes, that they did look at bridges over the railroad, they looked at tunnels, but they also looked at what they called an open, actually, it's right there on the cover of our feasibility study, an open trench, where the roadway would be going under the railroad track, but it wouldn't be a tunnel. So that's just something else to keep in mind. When we did the feasibility study, we looked at different options, not just, that's actually two pictures. That's a walkway, I think. Is that a railroad? That's a walkway, and then on the tunnel, you can tell the open trench. So I just wanted to kind of keep that in mind before we hear the presentation in February of different things that were looked at.
Commissioner Capps?
Yeah, she answered my question. I was wanting you to differentiate between the concept of open trench and tunnel. So tunnel would have like walls.
Right.
It wouldn't be dark, and you have to turn your lights on. And okay. All right, thanks.
I go through this intersection multiple times a day, and this is there are terrible intersections in Martin County. This is the worst. It definitely needs a solution. Any other questions? Any comments? Not just on this project, but on any others?
Yeah. Oh, do you have a question?
do. I have a question on priority number 5. It looks like it's already set for construction, I believe, for fiscal year 27-28. I remember when this was discussed, though, it was on Martin County's website about them relocating that intersection light to Wright Boulevard. So are we going to have 2 signalized intersections right there, back to back?
Yeah, so I get well, actually, the city and the county are working on the signal and the dedicated turn lane in that intersection. What can be funded through the MPO access is the pedestrian facility. So this is actually paying for pedestrian facilities over the railroad tracks to make it safer
It's
for.
not actually moving the intersection?
No, FDOT did an analysis on that, and that's really not feasible because they would have to raise the railroad, I believe, was the result of that feasibility study they did.
This resulted in a sidewalk project.
Yeah, so this is just the sidewalk, the pedestrian, the non-motorized facility going over the tracks.
Commissioner Capps?
Yes, back to number 1, and 3 phases of this widening of 710 are approved for construction, right? A, D, and E, right? And, right. And what is the priority among A, D, and E, you think, as far as when we might expect work to be done?
Well, they're funded for construction all in the 5th year of the work program, which is fiscal year 30, which starts in July, so that would be July 1st, 2029. So all of them are the same in this.
So all of this work would be done at about the same time, you think, probably?
Probably A and E.
29 at the earliest. Some of them have potential to be moved to 29 at the earliest, and others maybe 31. So it's probably within that three-year time span.
Okay. Here's a really basic question. The word SIS, intermodal.
Strategic intermodal system?
Right. And this road has a special designation.
That's correct. Back years ago, when Jeb Bush was governor, he started that's one of his legacies, the SIS program, or Strategic Intermodal System Program, and that is placing emphasis on facilities in the state that have significance as far as the movement of people and goods throughout the states. So they're in the form of roadways. So in Martin County, the roadways are State Road 710, I-95, the Turnpike, and US 98 around the lake. They also come in the form of railroads, so the FEC Railroad as well as the CSX Railroad. They're identified on the SIS, they're SIS designated, and waterways. The Intercoastal is also a SIS facility. So I don't know if FDOT wants to chime in more on that.
That's a good summary.
Okay.
Corridors that have specific economic.
Right, yes, emphasis. So at 710, so the state looks at that as their priority. So, so your number 1 priority, State Road 710, is also a high priority, clearly, from the state as far as attention and budgeting.
And another very basic question. This is number 1, mainly because of accidents and public safety problems.
Absolutely.
Right.
The high number of crashes that result in fatalities and serious injuries on this roadway. And more recently, there has been a significant increase in truck volume on this that's only going to increase, which is going to cause a safety concern.
I have one more very basic question about MPO priorities and funding and that kind of thing. And I've heard it referred to in prior meetings that I've watched, and it has to do with the stability of funding during good and bad economic cycles. And it seems like FDOT has mechanisms in place where funding is stable even when the economy is going really bad. Am I hearing something right in the past? Like there's some structures in place. Yeah. Like say we're going through a recession. Does that mean everything grinds to a stop for 5 years? Or is there a source of stability there?
Well, obviously, the allocations will go down if there is a recession, right? We will not receive the same amount of funding. So we look at the projects we have in the program. We will try possibly to maintain what is there. And of course, maintenance and preservation will be our number one goal, to keep maintaining. And I think that the opportunity to keep the projects that are in the program will be another priority. We may not be adding new projects within the 4 years of the work program, if anything, but everything is a matter of looking at the funding, looking at your priorities, and trying to match the funding to or the priorities to the allocations we have.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Vargas.
Yes, I have some questions on some of the items. Number 18, North Sewell's Point Road from East Ocean to Palmer Street says resiliency project. Could you explain what that means?
Yeah, this project, actually, there's a resiliency component to our long-range transportation plan, and North Sewell's Point Road does have a federal functional classification, and that was identified because of the flooding on that roadway. The county has worked very closely with the town of Sewell's Point to address that. I believe the county has gotten a grant, an emergency grant, is it HEMA grant, to put towards that project. But it is on the list of project priorities as a kind of also an option to receive funding in the future if needed. But the county and this town are working very closely on that, from what I understand.
I have a quick note on that.
Sure.
I just wanted to emphasize that the resiliency, it's flooding not just from stormwater, but we get tidal flooding. It comes back up through the outfalls. So when the tide is high, North Sewell's Point Road gets flooded. So.
Right, exactly, and I'm aware of that. The other thing is, this says unfunded, so they're still in the process of trying to determine how much.
Great, yes. I mean,
Price tag
that
is
they're
for
still, I
this?
think the county and the town are still trying to work out, what the needs are, what needs are eligible for what funding sources. The fact that it's on the list shows that it's can compete possibly for TMA funding that we get through the MPO, but there are other funds that this project would be eligible for as well, and that's something that the county and the town are working on.
Okay. The other thing is, there's no number, but it says Small County Outreach Programs, a COP.
Yeah.
Could you tell me what this is? It says Construction 1.1.
Sure, that's a state grant that the county applies for. They're eligible. I think they're one of 2 counties in District 4 that are eligible, because they're a small county, as well as Indian River County is a small county. And this looks like the resurfacing of Green River Parkway from Jensen Beach Boulevard to the Martin County line. So the county applied for resurfacing money to resurface this roadway, and these funds are available in fiscal year 30, which, like we've just said, that starts July 1st of 2029. So those funds are eligible in the 5th year of the work program.
All right, so it's resurfacing, not sidewalks, nothing to that effect.
No, it would include resurfacing. It would include resurfacing. There is the part of the East Coast Greenway that runs along the Green River Parkway.
Right, okay, thank you.
Any more questions? Were you finished with your presentation?
I think the next one is just to let you know, can you move to the next one? There is an opportunity to still provide comments after the public hearing, so we have a QR code to the comment section, and you want to move to the next one? I don't have the mouse with me. If you would like to contact Secretary Braun, we have his information here, his email address. Next one, please. And this is our safety message. Move over if you see vehicles stop on the side. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you so much.
Commissioner Capps.
Yes, the term federal functional classification. I think you told me one time what that means, and I have forgotten.
Yes, those are the roadways identified on that map are eligible for funding through the MPO process. So they there's a certain criteria. You all just actually went through this process. It happens every 10 years, and that is to update the map, to look at the roadways to see what kind of criteria they fit and if they can have that federal functional classification, and if they can be funded through the MPO. So roads like US 1 roads, you think of our priorities like the County Road 714, those have a functional classification, and so they can get funding through the MPO. A local road, for instance, would not be able to get funding through the MPO process.
So this is,
That doesn't have a classification. Mhm.
this is eligibility for federal funding.
For federal funding, correct, or to be funded through the MPO process.
And the main distinguishing feature between those roads and ones that are not eligible would be the word local. Like if it's a local road, it's probably not going to get anything.
Right, there's a lot of criteria that factors into it. For instance, for level of service, for instance, like Palm City Road is a locally owned road. The county owns it, but it does have a federal functional classification because of the level of service on that road and the importance of the connection between US 1 and Monterey Road. So that would be a good example of a locally owned road that has a federal classification, as well as Willoughby. Willoughby has a federal classification, but it is a locally owned road. The county owns Willoughby.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of federal funds, much of what we get comes from the state, and much of what the state comes from the federal government, right?
Yes, I mean, but we do get the TMA funds, if you will, or they keep changing the acronym for that. I think it's the Surface STBG funds now. They used to be the SU funds. That does come directly to the local area. We do have a very small local area, so we are not eligible for a lot of those kind of funds. But the state, those come directly to our area, but a lot of the federal funds actually go to FDOT and then come to our area through FDOT. FDOT gets, and this is kind of I don't get into the weeds of the work program, that, the state gets a lot of local funds, and they kind of, when you look at the draft tentative work program, you see a lot of funding codes. The state kind of sprinkles their federal funds into different funding codes, different pots of funding codes, and projects are eligible based on what funding code those funds are associated with. And that's why by the time a project is in the work program that comes to you all, there have been many hours and work that has taken to get that project put in the work program that Jessica Rubio's team does. I mean, you all don't just come have a project that, okay, we'll put funding. I mean, it takes a lot of time because there's a lot of eligibility components to that that will result in whether it's in the work program or can't be funded until the following cycle or future cycle. So.
Good, thank you.
Any further discussion? Is there a motion to approve the draft tentative work program?
Motion to approve.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Rubio, Mr. Crane, Mr. Lopez. On to 8D, US 1 Congestion Management Public Outreach Study.
Yes, this is the final draft report of this study. You have heard about this at recent meetings and been updated on what the public involvement component has been, as well as the analysis. And Stuart Robertson is here from Kimley Horn to present that item, and Bonnie Landry from Bonnie Landry and Associates was the subcontractor on that project. So with that, I'll turn it over.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the MPO Policy Board. My name is Stuart Robertson with Kimley Horn, here with Bonnie Landry from Bonnie C. Landry and Associates. It's been a pleasure working with you and your staffs and the general public of Martin County in developing the US 1 Congestion Management Study since January of this year. Just a bit of background. The study area is the northern part of US 1 within Martin County. This is from Southwest Joan Jefferson Way up to the St. Lucie County line. This is the busiest section of US 1 anywhere within Martin County. A lot of commute trips in the corridor, but also a lot of local trips as well, accessing businesses, schools, residences along the corridor. So as a brief summary of the project, we documented existing conditions and the commuting characteristics of the corridor. We also collected traffic data, including counts as well as vehicle speeds, through measuring travel time from Port St. Lucie all the way into downtown Stuart and analyzing that travel time and how it changes at different types of the day and in different directions. From this information, we developed a series of congestion mitigation strategies as well as safety improvements and consulted stakeholders and residents for their opinions on travel within the study area, their ideas for improvements, many of which were built into our recommendations, and also their input on the recommendations themselves. Public engagement has been a very important component of the study. There's been a robust public engagement campaign throughout the study that started way back in the spring. We also convened a project advisory committee, which met 4 times throughout the course of the study. This included technical experts from not only your staffs, but also from the Florida Department of Transportation, which owns and maintains US 1, law enforcement from the county, as well as the city of Stuart, and the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council. This committee met throughout the project in order to advise us on recommendations and provide their input. The stakeholder interviews and public engagement has been a very important component as well, and Bonnie is going to speak on that in a moment. I'm going to get into the congestion mitigation strategies and provide a summary of those recommendations. First up is the idea of inter-property multimodal connectivity. This is providing sidewalks and driveways that would connect businesses along the corridor. Currently, many businesses are not connected to each other. Therefore, local trips between those businesses often have to use US 1, which adds a lot of really localized congestion to the project corridor. Moving to safety, the audible and vibratory edge line striping, which is a technique that is found within FDOT's design manual, or FDM. We started with this as a recommendation for the Roosevelt Bridge to help separate car traffic from bicycle traffic a little more than just a conventional stripe. The long concrete bridges were an original use case for the development of this audible and vibratory edge line striping, but then thought perhaps it could be used throughout the corridor as well, where there's a buffered bicycle lane recently installed by FDOT. One of the projects that we saw in a previous presentation was that resurfacing project that has been completed. It may be possible to extend this recommendation throughout the buffered bicycle lane section as well. Okeechobee Boulevard in Palm Beach County, west of the Turnpike, is an example of an arterial roadway that has recently received an audible and vibratory edge line striping technique. Moving into the long-term safety recommendation, a recommendation was developed to reconstruct US 1. This is a long-term recommendation, so it would have to be prioritized through a process like the Long Range Transportation Plan, or LRTP. But to reconstruct US 1 to move the bicycle lanes to be adjacent to the sidewalk. This is a design strategy called sidewalk level separated bicycle lanes, which is also a new feature of FDOT's FDM. It also has the side effect of just slightly narrowing the roadway a little bit, because the bicycle lane is not part of the asphalt of the road in this case. It would be up adjacent to the concrete sidewalk. So there may be some ancillary benefit to speed management as part of that recommendation. We also developed several technology improvements, recommendations, and included those in the project, including extending the adaptive traffic signal control into this section of US 1. We also worked very closely with MPO staff to incorporate Vision Zero plan recommendations into the report. Vision Zero is a plan that was adopted by the board, and it includes speed management and safety techniques consistent with FDOT's FDM for use on a context classification of commercial, suburban commercial, which is the context classification of the roadway, and a 45 mile per hour posted speed. Lane width narrowing, horizontal deflections, pedestrian hybrid beacons, these are aspects that could be added to that long-term improvement of reconstructing US 1 in a way that may produce positive safety outcomes. So that's a brief summary of the congestion mitigation strategies. There's a lot more detail in the report, which was in your agenda packet. And I'd like to ask Bonnie to give you a summary of the public engagement that was conducted for the project.
For the record again, Bonnie Landry. I've got a little bit of laryngitis, but hopefully I can get through it with a mic. It was my pleasure to take the technical information and get the personal touch, because who would know more about US 1 than the people that drive it every single day? So one of the strategies that we used to get input, we used these polling devices, where when we were in a public meeting, people could vote what things such as, what do you think is the worst part of the study area? What do you think about these strategies, just to get that input? So we did this polling with the Project Advisory Committee, the Joint MPO Advisory Committee, and we used these at the public open houses. We also, for those who did not attend the live meeting, we also had the same questions on SurveyMonkey, which is an online polling strategy. We used the QR code, and we passed these cards out throughout the community to get more people to participate. And I think we had some success with that. We had more than 270 people respond to that survey, and we put that data in with what we got live in the meetings. And the most fun that I had with this project was actually interviewing people. What we did is we went to many businesses, and we gave them a choice. Do you want to be on camera? Can we take your picture, or can we just take notes? We did have 20 people who agreed to these interviews, some of which you'll see in the video diary that is on the MPO website. But the data that we collected was very similar into what people's experiences were. The polling that we conducted, those that we polled thought the intersection that was most congested, the worst one, was Jensen Beach Boulevard and Joan Jefferson Way intersections at US 1. We had some trends that we saw, and I do want to recognize Lucine Martins, who attended some of these interviews with me and helped me. Some of the trends that she and I heard were people didn't feel safe on that part of US 1. And why did they not feel safe? They felt that there were a lot of speeding. There's a lot of speeding on the bridge, and I think you've probably seen it as when you're driving the bridge. A lot of people run red lights because they don't want to miss the next cycle and wait 2 minutes for the next one to come along. But it's very unsafe, and it's very unsafe for bicyclers and pedestrians. I had a near miss at US 1 near my house, and it's pretty scary. Another thing that we heard is that they didn't feel comfortable making U-turns on US 1 without the arrow. And this was because of the blind spots, the higher vehicles, you can't see around them, or the traffic is stacked and you can't see. And what would happen, or what they described, was they didn't feel safe. They were going to wait till it was clear and they could see that it was clear, and then people behind them are beeping and being rude, and it just causes a bad situation. One of the things that they also said, we said, well, look, one of the ways to reduce traffic is to get people out of the cars onto their bikes or walking. And we said, is there anything that we could do as a county that would make you feel more safe using a different mode of transportation? And they said protected bike lanes, kind of what Stuart had just mentioned. And I also wanted, before I moved on, I wanted to say that the interviews had a very good outcome that we didn't quite expect. That first one-on-one actually initiated those first discussions with the property owners, so that if we go to implement these interconnectivities, we already have some people that were open to that. An example, Southern Cotton, which used to be Calico Corners, we interviewed the business owner, but she also is the property owner. So that was a great person to talk to. And we told her about, she talked about how people cut through and they're trying to get over to Target because they buy their gift at her place, and then you go to Target to get the wrapping paper, and the greeting cards. And she actually said that she would be open to beginning with a pedestrian connection there, and then obviously to do a roadway connection is going to be more expensive, but those interviews did give us that first opportunity to talk to people, and I think that's how you get things done, talking to people. So we did present this at the MPO Joint Advisory Committee. They passed a motion to recommend approval of the US 1 congestion management study at their December meeting. And they added in the motion, they would request that Martin County and the City of Stuart consider taking the lead with these preliminary engineerings to test the inter-property multimodal connections between private properties to implement some of the recommendations in the study. And that concludes the presentation, and Stuart and I are available for any questions you might have.
Thank you. Questions? Commissioner Mayfield?
Yes. Hi, Bonnie. Thank you. In this area in particular, and other areas of US 1, you talk about pedestrians and bike lanes. And I'm not saying it's not wise to take traffic off the road, but it also feels kind of like unsafe, or not necessarily an area that you want a lot of bikers and pedestrians. I don't really have an answer. I don't really feel one way or the other, but it's kind of a which one's worse, all the cars, but I don't ever feel that people look that safe walking that road or biking on that road. So it's...
We did hear that same thing. They don't feel safe even in the car, some people.
But I'm just not sure you can make that area super safe, because there's,
Right.
it seems so trafficked and so many businesses that I'm just not sure that's just a thought.
Yeah, the advisory committee, just to chime in, the advisory committee did talk about different strategies, if you would, to try to make it safer. One was protected intersections, and that was something that, probably would be kind of looked at in the design that kind of more emphasize the non-motorized facilities, as well as looking at the bridge, having the sidewalks and the bicycle lanes be in protected areas, so they're not just adjacent to the car. So I don't know if you wanted to talk a little bit about what your conversation was with the advisory committees.
Yes,
on that.
but first, just to echo Bonnie's comment that what you're sharing is a very common concern that we heard during the public engagement outreach process. And also, I think FDOT has been hearing that concern about many state highway system roadways around the state. In fact, they have recently expanded their design manual significantly related to bicycle facilities to include off-road bicycle facilities such as separated bicycle lanes. Now there's a range of options.
The one you said in your presentation?
Yes, that one in particular is called the sidewalk level separated bicycle lanes. So the design menu of options has expanded significantly, and because of how busy US 1 is and the speed of the traffic during much of the day, we think that that would be appropriate for this section of US 1. And just one other thing to add into this discussion as well. I think it is important to remember that not all of us have a choice as to what mode of transportation that we use. And so some people have to walk and bike for transportation or access public transit. So it's important that we provide safe facilities for them as well.
Commissioner Vargas?
Yes, I know that stretch of US 1 very, very well. It's my district, most of it along US 1, and I've had near misses also. I paused before going through an intersection, constant red light running. The bicyclists that choose that mode of transportation, lack of a better word, Monday morning, but they're more of an annoyance to the motorist, if I can say that. And I have nothing against bicycle riding, I like it. But there, when you talk about a protected lane, are you talking about something that's elevated or may have some sort of, I saw your diagram there. It wasn't really clear to me. So how would that work rather than building something out completely?
So in the sidewalk level separated bicycle lane, the bicyclists would ride on a designated facility adjacent to the sidewalk rather than adjacent to car lanes. And this facility, when we present it to the public, we often get really positive comments from people that are not thinking from a bicyclist perspective, but are thinking from a motorist perspective, because, that comment that you were sharing comes to mind in that I think many motorists would rather bicyclists have their own dedicated space rather than being close to the cars, because no one wants to hit a bicyclist. And so separating them from the higher speed motor vehicle traffic, we've often found to be popular, even amongst people that are coming at it from a motorist perspective.
Okay, so how would you separate them if we're looking at this diagram here? I mean, there's traffic that's flowing both ways, so, and they have to get across the street.
Yeah, so that would happen at intersections. So anywhere we have a signalized intersection, there would still be the crosswalk network that cyclists would need to use to be able to cross the street safely.
Is that all? Commissioner Reed?
Yes, so I like connecting the properties for private property owners. It's amazing to see that. It's a great suggestion. Has it been done in other municipalities currently where someone has done a study like this?
Typically, it is done during development review. Whenever a modification is being made to a shopping center or other private parcel, many local governments have a policy to require connection to adjacent, those adjacent parcels. In the case of this study, because what we found along US 1 is that so many of those parcels were not connected, we thought it very important to provide this recommendation. Typically, when we do this type of study, we're looking for modifications that we can make within the public right-of-way. So this is a little bit unique.
How do you achieve it? Because they're private property owners, who pays for it? I mean, it's great to do it. It would make sense if it was designed that way originally, but now we're fixing it after the fact.
Yeah, if it's part of some sort of a modification that an owner is making, it could be
Like when they
required.
come in for a
as a
PUD, like an
developer.
amendment, you know, the board would look at the project, but moving forward, obviously, there's no way of connecting them currently as they stand, right?
Right, in that case, it would need to be some level of public investment if there's not any anticipated change to the properties coming up anytime soon.
Okay.
And the example with the Southern Cotton is an example of how you reach out to them. She's not, right now, she's not required to do it, or it didn't happen during the development review process. But when she got her business started, she recognized that it was a problem now, so she's open to that. So I do think actually going out and speaking with people would be a good next step to make those things happen. Can't make them, but in her case, she was interested. She was open to it.
Thank you.
Commissioner Campy?
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to accept with our thanks the US 1 congestion management study.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I think there's, it's time, it's past 10:30, so we might want to take a break before we finish it's up to you all if you want to take a break before we
Does
finish
it,
the
I
agenda.
think we can finish this
Okay.
in a timely manner, don't you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, let's proceed. Thank you. With 8E, which is Safe Routes to School.
Yes, this Safe Routes to School program is a federal funding source, and the county is applying for a grant application for grant money for a sidewalk in Jensen Beach, just north of Jensen Beach Elementary School, and we have the Capital Projects Division to present this item.
Hello, good morning. Can you hear me? My name is Jamie Polidora. I'm under Capital Projects as a project engineer. I'm here today to talk to you about the North and South Street Sidewalk Project. Again, as said, was for the 2025 FDOT Safe Routes to School funding. Florida Safe Routes to School a little background information, in 1969, nearly 50% of all students walked or rode a bike to school. By 2009, that number had dropped to fewer than 15%. This decline are varied and the effects are far-reaching. Fewer students walking or bicycling to school has an adverse effect on traffic, air quality, and bicycle and pedestrian safety in communities. Safe Routes to School aims to reserve these effects by making walking and biking to school safer and easier for primary and secondary school students. So a little bit about the program itself. It is sponsored by the Florida Department of Transportation and provides technical and funding support for local communities. The primary goals are to enable and encourage children, including those with disabilities, to walk and bicycle to school, make walking and bicycling to school safe and appealing, facilitating planning, developing, and implementing of projects to meet the program goals. The benefits of this are getting an active start, which helps the students arrive at school alert, refreshed, and ready to learn. It encourages physical activity and teaches lifelong healthy habits, connects bicycles and pedestrian networks, providing more active travel and recreation communities for the whole community, and encourages the community and students to be more welcoming towards walking and bicycling to schools using the 5 E's. So what are the 5 E's? They are education, encouragement, enforcement, engineering, and evaluation. So a little bit, the holistic approach, a little bit on each of the 5 E's. First, we have education. So who is involved with the education? Typically, that's the principal and teachers from the schools, the subject school. And they are there to help teach students about bicycle and pedestrian safety through assemblies, bicycle rodeos, curriculums for students, parents, and guardians. Next, we have encouragement, that is made up of PTA members and school staff. Through this, they promote the Safe Routes to School program by building community buy-in, building excitement, and rewarding positive habits. Such events include walking school bus, bicycle trains, punch cards, stickers and recognition, crossing guards, and student safety patrols. Next, we have enforcement, which is made up of local law enforcement, school resource officer, or adult school crossing guards. And that is a plan to deter safe behaviors and encourage safe sharing the road. Such examples of that are crossing strings, speed feedback trailers, and signage. Next, we have engineering, and that consists of the Martin County Transportation Engineer and the Capital Projects team. Through this, they design, implement, and operation and maintenance of infrastructure and traffic control devices. Such examples are influencing drivers to slow down through sidewalks, bike paths, signage, traffic control devices, and pavement markings. Finally, we have evaluation, which involves Martin County staff as well as school officials. Through this, we assess both the successes and the shortcomings of the program. And through this, we have parent surveys, site assessments, and case studies. So for the project itself that's being proposed, we have Jensen Beach Elementary School, and that is the Northeast-South Street sidewalk connection. So this project would address critical safety concerns near the school, near Jensen Beach Elementary. The hope would be to increase the number of students walking and bicycling to school, and those would be within the 2-mile radius to either walk or bicycle to school instead of car drop-off. It would provide sidewalk connections from adjacent neighborhoods to the existing sidewalk connecting along Northeast Savannah Road. So Savannah Road already has the sidewalk connection leading to Jensen Beach Elementary. And to build on the existing relationship with Jensen Beach Elementary and the Martin County MPO. So this map shows the existing conditions we have. You can see the green dashed line are the areas of no existing sidewalk, and the existing sidewalk is shown in the orange solid line. So sidewalk does not exist for children walking or bicycling to Jensen Beach Elementary along Northeast South Streets and these connecting streets. No sidewalk is a deterrent to walking and bicycling to school. And no sidewalk connectivity reduces safety for bicyclists and pedestrians sharing the road with vehicular traffic. So the project scope that is proposed is a new 6-foot wide sidewalk along Northeast South Street and the neighboring streets, which include Hickory Ridge Avenue, Spruce Ridge Avenue, Highland Avenue, and Northeast Hilltop Street. And South Street would go all the way from Savannah Road to the end at Northeast Skyline Drive. This would also include, along with the sidewalk, 5 new crosswalks that will be needed with these updates, and they will include necessary signing of pavement markings, and the current drainage system will remain with pipe extensions and minor adjustments to the current swale. So these red lines show the proposed project limits, so South Street from the beginning of the project to the end just past Skyline Drive, and all of the connecting roads including Spruce Ridge Avenue, Hickory Ridge Avenue, Highland Avenue, and Hilltop Street. Here's a photo of the existing conditions. You can see they have some speed management with some pavement markings and a raised intersection, so this would be restriped with this project. Here you can see pedestrians in the road with no existing sidewalk facilities. And this is from South Street to Skyline Drive. We have the traffic calming. This is also a cut-through area from Jensen Beach Boulevard. And this is showing Spruce Ridge at South Street. Again, no connecting sidewalks in this area. So we have the existing proposed typical section. This one was taken from South Street, where we would add curb and gutter, a sidewalk, and proposed swale, piping where needed to accommodate new drainage. The funding allocation, the total project cost estimate is about $1.3 million for construction, $134,000 for design, $161,000 for CEI, and the grant requested funds are a little over $1.6 million. And with Safe Routes to School, the funds cover 100% of construction, design, and CEI. Local support is very important for Safe Routes to School projects. This project has been presented at some of these, and public involvement will continue. It was presented at the MPO Joint Committee meetings on December 2nd. It was also presented today at the MPO Policy Board meeting. A resolution of support was heard at the December 10th meeting. And the Safe Routes to School Task Force, we met with the team last week as well at Jensen Beach Elementary School. We met with the assistant principal. The neighborhood meeting is scheduled for January 9th, and we will also in the future need Martin County School District letters of support. So that's it. We're here available for any questions you may have.
Questions? Commissioner Capps?
Yes, my question has to do with public perception about the safety of this type of thing. When I was growing up in the 70s, we didn't just ride to school on our bikes. We rode all over town on our bikes. And now it seems like that's almost like parental neglect. Like you could be, arrested or something for neglecting your children to let them roam around on a bicycle unsupervised. And if this were already in place, do we know how many people would use, how many kids would use it, and what the popular appeal of this kind of thing would be?
So for this particular one, South Street, we've already heard from parents that live in the South Street neighborhood their desire to have sidewalks in there. And then part of this, as this is farther back, so it's about a 5-year lag between when construction will start. The school, Jensen Beach Elementary, is already heavily involved with the education of the students, the parents, the PTA, about the importance of bicycling and walking to school, not just, to get cars off the car line, but for the students themselves. So that's going to be within these 5 years. It's going to be a lot on education of the students and the parents just to get that mentality back of providing a safe environment for them to walk and bike to school.
Thank you.
Commissioner Reed?
Was there any traffic counts on South Street for vehicles?
We do we get all of them? Yes, yeah, we have the traffic count, so we'll put that.
Because I was just curious between traffic count on South Street and say Skyline, because that entire neighborhood only has sidewalks on Skyline. So when you have Linda, Melba, Sunview, there's sidewalks on Sunview, but do they plan on going to that neighborhood then as well?
Yes.
Is that the plan?
So when we met with the school, Jensen Beach Elementary, last week, we actually gave them a big, long plot of the area. So they're going to go back and look at future projects, because if we get this one funded with them, we could work on future years for Safe Routes to School in other areas that we would like to add.
The only reason I look at that one is because I see South Street. Obviously, everyone knows South Street's the heavily populated one with travel, but then we're getting into Spruce Ridge, Hickory, Highland, and Hilltop that aren't as heavily used. Do you go to another neighborhood like, say, South Street and try to focus on that instead of little sub-streets that might not be as traveled by children?
Possibly in a future year, yeah, we would look into that. So hopefully they get back to us and let us know. We're also going to go to
And-
a couple future public meetings with the school, with the PTA, and then with the staff to talk to them, and then I'm sure we'll start hearing more from
'Cause
the.
the only new development has been the one in the sand dunes. I don't know how many houses were built there, the board might know, but that's been the only development in my entire lifetime, basically, of living in Jensen. That's the biggest development. Everything else has basically existed.
Yeah, and I know there's some HOAs and some areas like that where they already have sidewalks, so we
Yeah, that
will
were-
be
yeah.
focusing on those, but.
Okay, that's it.
Commissioner Vargas?
Yes, question. Since you want to involve the parents, as everything you've said, talked about, and of course, the school administration, I worked in a school, so first line is the teachers of the classroom. When are these meetings held? Is it convenient for folks that are working to be able to attend?
Yes, I know one of the meetings we have is scheduled after hours, I think it starts at 5:30 or 6. We just met with them last week, so we're working on our schedule of task team meetings, so that'll be the smaller group. They also have an eco team at Jensen Beach Elementary, so we're going to present to them, and all the students will be there for that meeting. But yes, there are after-hours meetings that we'll present at.
Okay, I'd like to be notified of that.
Okay.
Of that meeting, please. Thank you.
Any more questions? Is there a motion to approve this Safe Routes to Schools grant application?
Second, yes.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? That motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Now moving on to 8F, which is Martin County Intercity Passenger Rail Grant Application. Letter of support.
Yes, the Assistant County Administrator, George Stokas, sent me a letter or an email stating that the county is applying for grant money for Brightline Station, and he asked for a letter of support, and he attached a template letter included with the email, and that's included in your agenda packet. I told him that the MPO board really hasn't talked about a Brightline Station, so I would have to put this on the agenda, and he requested that I do that. So that is for the MPO board, whether you all want to send a letter to support for the Brightline Station for the county to incorporate in their grant application to be submitted to, I think it's to FRA for grant money for the Brightline Station. So that's why this is on the agenda today.
Any questions, comments? Commissioner Reed?
I have a question. In the 2050 long-range plan, I believe it was for a private-funded train station. Correct?
Yeah, we're developing the 2050 long-range transportation plan now, so we're still in the preliminary stages of that. That is actually due to be approved by you all in October of 2025. The currently adopted 2045 long-range transportation plan was approved in October of 2020. During COVID, actually, we were over in the Blake Library at that time. And in that, the 2045 long-range transportation plan, it does say that that does identify a passenger rail station as privately funded. A lot has happened since then with the passenger rail and with the Brightline discussion. So the decision for this board today is either to not send a letter of support, but if you do want to send a letter of support, to, as part of that motion, maybe direct staff to actually reach out to FDOT and Federal Highway to see, if we would need to modify the 2045 plan, or since the 2050 plan is scheduled to be adopted in October, that it could be included in that. So that would be my suggestion. If you all want to send a letter of support, then to direct staff to talk to the granting agencies about how to modify the current plan or to have it included in the, obviously, how to have it included in the 2050 plan.
So just so it's clear for the record, in the 2045 plan, it was supposed to be privately funded.
There's a passenger rail station identified, and in the plan, it says it privately funded when it mentions it.
Between the 2045 and the 2050 one, it went from private to
The 2050 plan haven't gotten there yet. You all just approved the goals, objectives, and performance measures today. So we're developing the 2050 plan right now, and that's the one that's due in October. That's due in October.
Commissioner Campy.
All members of the MPO sit on different boards, and this conversation, this topic has been very well discussed, debated, and I think most of us have an opinion for or against the concept of a station in our county. So I'll cut to the chase and make a motion that we ask Commissioner Hurd, serving as our chair for the meantime, to sign a letter of support for a grant application process from the NPO.
Certainly, you wouldn't want to stifle all discussion, but
Not at all, but have at it.
Commissioner Collins.
yes. So I appreciate Commissioner Reed's comments. I do believe as a result of that approving this would be antithetical to the MPO beyond our individual board discussions. If what we had planned was for a station to be funded on its own without our help, and again, this is kind of one of those consequences of rushing something through, and I won't beat up too hard on the previous county commission because a couple of those individuals aren't here, but this is some of the fallout when you try to do that. So for this board to move forward in approving this kind of a letter, even though it's antithetical to our long-range plan, I think would be inappropriate.
Commissioner Vargas.
Yes, I don't like to make decisions on the fly. This is something that many people have said would be a detriment to our community. And this takes a lot more discussion. And possibly the former commission thought it would result in what some of the present commissioners who were on the previous commission thought would come to pass. I am not of the mind to sign anything right now, nor give direction for our chairwoman to do this. I have to agree with Commissioner Collins and Commissioner Reed. We have to look very carefully at what was decided before and where we are now, because it is ever so changing.
Ms. Beltran.
Yeah, I just wanted to, it makes it easier. It's very important for me to hear everyone's comments on this. It just makes it easier for me if they please don't speak unless they're recognized by the chair.
Commissioner Mayfield.
Yes, as a commissioner of Sewell's Point, we have been lucky enough to not have to have been involved in this. I don't have an opinion one way or another. I'd go with the majority of the board, but I do think that you had mentioned if it passes, you needed to, or it would be prudent to alter the 2045 plan. Is that what you said?
I said that if the board wanted to send a letter of support, that you all could direct staff to do research with, reach out to FDOT Federal Highway to see if we would modify the current plan or just have that included in our 2050 plan, because the current plan was adopted back in October of 2020. It was during COVID. It was almost 5 years ago. So obviously, there's been a lot of conversation since then. So that would require, I think, a modification. But to just direct staff to just make sure, the MPO's job, the staff's job, is to make sure all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed in order to be eligible to receive transportation funding. That's the funding that we got in the draft tentative work program. We just have to, staff just has to make sure all the rules are followed. So that would just,
So I guess I was just clarifying that the motion, you would do everything you needed to do on your end to make it all work.
Correct, right. I just would want to make sure, that that we had everything in place that we're supposed to have. That was what that caveat was, if you will.
Commissioner Capps.
I'll second Commissioner Campy's motion.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
No.
That motion passes with Commissioners Collins, Reed, and Vargas dissenting. Now we're moving on to 8G, which is a development review interactive map update.
Yes, I'll have Ricardo Vasquez talk about this item.
Good morning. This item comes before you all in the past twice a year. Now it'll be every quarter. We'll be updating this map. Let me bring it up real quick. So we recently updated the map to include the updated projects or developments in Martin County. And good news, Indiantown apparently now has its own development review map where you guys are tracking your projects and updating your public as to that. So now we also have updated information for Indiantown on our map. And yeah, with that, I always offer, if you need help navigating this map or learning this map, feel free to reach out to me. I'll do my best to teach you guys how to use it. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Commissioner Reed.
Just want to say I love your map, by the way. I utilize it on a weekly, monthly basis, and it helps quite a bit. One thing that might be very beneficial for the public to see, though, is how many units are in development in the city, the county, maybe Indiantown as well, because they have it. So it's out for the public to see it. You'd have a total amount instead of looking at each individual project. I know you can do that, but maybe if there was a legend that broke it out, county, city, Indiantown, I think that would be very beneficial, because otherwise I'm using a spreadsheet and a calculator.
Noted.
Just makes it a lot easier, but it's an awesome map.
Any further comments or questions? Thank you. The last item is 8H, which is the State Road 710 update. I think.
Yeah, I don't know if FDOT has anything. This was kind of addressed during the, we have Ron Kriva, the SIS coordinator.
I don't have anything additional.
You don't have anything additional? Okay, yeah. And, but since you're here.
While we have him.
Good morning.
Never.
Yeah, he was the one that I mentioned earlier that spoke, gave Indiantown story and Martin County story at central office about how the safety is a big concern in this area that really was instrumental in receiving the funding. So since you're here, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We do have a question from
Right here.
right there.
It's not a question, it's actually a comment.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further comments, board member comments, public comments? Commissioner Reed,
Who do I turn my handwritten notes into just in case I get public record requested?
the person who requests your public records.
I don't turn them into like staff. That's what we do at the city, and then they scan it, and then they.
Your personal. In my opinion and experience through a lot of our certification process, your notes are your working notes. I mean, you could
So you
hang
don't-
on to them.
You don't have to turn them in, like,
We have never done that.
They're not public records.
They're your personal notes.
even if you use it to portray any kind of.
I have no idea. I mean, you're more than welcome to do that, but I would hang on to them if you want. But if you jotted a question, something you wanted to remember after a presentation to ask a question, I think that's your personal stuff. But I would ask your attorney or our attorneys.
I was just curious because that's what I
You're
was.
using your notes to jog your memory or something like that. They're not public records. Anything else?
Just under notes, we did get a response from Steve Braun from FDOT, just in response to our comments regarding the road safety audit on East Ocean. They are going to move forward with the speed study along that roadway, as well as consider looking at, or are going to look at having a crosswalk across East Ocean as well. Also included under notes are the proposed meetings for 2025, and after this meeting, we can send out Outlook invites to all of you. And as far as the next meeting, it has the wrong date on there. My apologies. It should be February 24th is the next meeting.
See y'all on February 24th. We are adjourned. Merry